So things have been very, very, somewhat suspiciously quiet, of course, in the Conservative Civil War. There have been plenty of articles written by, well, should we say, supporting MPs of their particular candidate. We went over Jenrick's candidacy, went over Kemi Badenoch's. Priti Patel's is incredibly pathetic. And of course, there is one recently come out today on Conservative Home for Mel Stride, the ultimate unity candidate. But it is kind of funny, though, and I keep on bringing this up. They're all talking about like the need for unity. We all need to come together. Okay, how do you all come together? What do you come together on or about? And what do these policies and bring each other together, and what if someone disagrees? How do you solve conflicts? All these questions are going unanswered because it's just unity. And remember, even though there are now a lot less Tory right MPs, as I keep on saying before, the actual Tory membership is incredibly right-wing. Like the current membership, very, very right-wing. So, as I always said, I thought that the race would end up being like Kemi Badenoch, Tom Tugendhat. We'll show you some interesting polling data in a moment on that. But I always said if it comes down to the final two of like Kemi Badenoch, Tom Tugendhat, I thought it was that. We'll see. I might be about to change my mind on that in a moment, but we'll see. But if it comes down to that, I think Tom Tugendhat loses that race. Kemi Badenoch will run away with it because that's what the party want. And this is the big thing that opposition parties tend to do. They tend to choose a leader that is best for, the party in opposition, but then doesn't really have wider appeal to the rest of the UK, because ultimately that's what you've got to do. And Keir Starmer, by the way, proved that he's done that in one election cycle after the loss of 2019 to go on to the victory he's just had. So say what you will about the man, but his electoral victory, I think, speaks volumes for the success he had in the Labour Party. But we're talking about the Conservative Party, or at least how weird the Conservative Party is going to go in certainly next week, because guess what kicks off next week? Hustings. Yes. The Hustings are going to be starting with all these candidates now going around the country doing hustings of all 6 on stage at once. So it is very likely next week things could about to be turning hot in this cold Conservative civil war. But who knows? Maybe they'll go on stage and sing Kumbaya. But how long that lasts, I don't think so. It will not last the whole contest, because eventually, someone sooner or later will break ranks because I'm too boring. I'm being seen as too much the same. It's a buffet and everything is on offer is just the same thing. I want to put some spice so that I'm the different buffet item, and everyone will go for me. So, trust me, I think once these hustings do start, once they do kick off, that's when I think things are going to really kick into overdrive. But before we do have a look at this interesting graph data, please remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. Down below, there's my Patreon page. There's a Buy Me Coffee link where you can buy me coffee, the YouTube thank you button, and of course, as always, there's the Pony Club down below as well. So let's crack on over onto Conservative Home, because as always, they've done some polling, and part of the reason why we look at the polling on Conservative Home, they have very accurately predicted who the next Conservative leader is for quite a few races. So I will say this now. I do think, as I've said here, you can see Kemi Badenoch still firmly in the lead, followed, surprisingly, by Robert Jenrick. So she's on 33, Jenrick's on 19, Tom's on 10, Cleverly's on 10, Patel's on 8, and of course, Melstride 2. who, who do you think is going to be the first to drop out? Who have I been saying for the longest time is going to be the first to drop out? It's Melstride. It's Melstride. Yeah, he is going to drop out. So if you're getting that few support, he is not going to win. But the surprising thing for me was I thought Kemi Badenoch's main opponent in the right of this was going to be Patel. Like, I was sure Pri Patel was going to be like her main opponent in this. I was absolutely convinced that was who she was going to have to beat. However, doesn't look like that when now you can see in the polls Jenrick here. Now, of course, he hasn't, shall we say, wowed the crowd, shall we say, because at the moment, remember, the pictures so far are to Conservative membership, but more importantly, of course, at the moment, trying to get Conservative MPs. This is what matters at this moment of this stage in the contest. How many Conservative MPs can you woo over? So, who will be backing who? But I'll tell you now, I am still predicting Melstride first to drop out of this race. Because there is no way he stands a chance. At 2%, no. This is the joke candidate I've said before. There's been a lot of people and stuff saying just because he managed to survive by like 61 votes, he's been going around saying that he's like God's gift to conservatism, hence why he even put his hat in the ring in the first place. So, but Tom Tugendhat, you know, neck and neck with James Cleverly, you know, Tugendhat's main opponent is Cleverly. For like the right centrist vote, it's Cleverly. He's got to win over more of those one nation centrist MPs. And I've said before, I think Cleverly was too close to last administration. I think there's a lot of baggage he would bring with him. I don't think a lot of other MPs would necessarily want that when they could have like a new, fresh face. I am surprised Tugendhat is not going with the same pitch he went with last time at the leadership contest, which bear in mind, he lost. But that message, even more so now, he can come back with it and say, I told you last time, I was the fresh face. I was the new start that this party needed. You know, here I am again to be your new fresh face, fresh start the party needs. I am very shocked he is not doing that again. Very shocked he's not doing that again. But, like I say, this wasn't, of course, to MPs. This was to membership. And I think this really does go to show you if Badenoch makes it to the final two, she walks it. Unless something really bad happens that, you know, damages her like view, reputation, etc. with the membership. Bear in mind, we had that attack dossier that came out about her time as business and trade secretary, and of course the accusations that came out how she treated her civil servants. Doesn't seem to have affected everything. In fact, according to this, she's actually surged in the polls. She was at 26% last time they did this. She's now gone up to 33%. So that attack dossier did not affect her in the running. Now, maybe it will affect her as leaders, as like the rest of the country, where if Badenoch ever makes it to the next election, I have a feeling that she won't. As I've said before, I think there are going to be a couple more leadership elections before we get there. But I don't think she has that mass wide appeal. We talked about very recently the biggest competitor, the secret competitor here on the stage is the Grim Reaper. You know, he took what 1.4 million votes since 2019, predicted to take another 1.2 million by the next election. So a lot of votes to lose. And Badenoch does not really represent any significant change. I think what she does represent is a significant doubling down on a lot of the other stuff going after, trying to chase reform, trying to out reform, and that will doom the party. But ultimately, this is what we are witnessing, the huge, colossal fall, I think, in the Conservative Party. And ultimately, as I've said before, the inheritors of the fall of the Conservative Party is going to be the Liberal Democrats. You know, how long before we start referring to the blue wall as the yellow wall? Could happen. Could very, very easily happen indeed. So, as always, let me know what you think down below about this. But when it gets to the final two, could it be Badenoch versus Jenrick? Well, I'll tell you now. If it does get to the final two between, Badenoch and Jenrick, all Badenoch has to do is be bombastic, as she normally has done, just go on the attack against Jenrick at that point. Bob Blackman's infamous, yellow card, doubt's going to really play any effect on her at that point. I doubt she'll really pay attention to a strongly worded letter from Bob Blackman at that point when she's at the final two. But Jenrick will not do. I have a feeling when we see the Hustings, I have a strong suspicion he is going to taper off. You might see Priti Patel maybe gain some ground there. Maybe you might see the scales shift between Tugendhat and Cleverly when we start to see the polls after these hustings start to sort of take place. Who knows? Let me know what you think down below, but I'm still pretty much sure at this point it is still Badenoch's race to win. She is going to be, as far as I'm concerned, the next Tory leadership candidate. And unless something drastic happens, that ain't going to change, I think, anytime soon. So, as always, let me know what you think down below. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.